really pleased today. We've got two guests. We've got Biba, the lovely Biba from Slovenia, who we met on the diploma course at Brief, and Arnoud Huibers from Holland. Hi. I think I first met you in 2 years ago in Bath, Arnold, at one of your presentations at the UK, on family therapy, which was really interesting. So always when we do these chats, and we've had a few, I'm always fascinated by how you came across Solution Focus and what drew you to it. Who were your inspirations?
My first acquaintance with Solution Focus approach was watching a video with Inso Kim Berg. That's a long time ago. And one of my colleagues from the Netherlands, called Hans Kladder, clinical psychologist, he showed this video. I was just very impressed because I saw this small Asian woman, so friendly and so respectfully talking with the family. And they became very interested, first of all, with her stance, her posture, and also all these wonderful questions, these solution-focused questions she was asking to the family. And that was my first acquaintance. And then I Googled solution-focused brief therapy, and I Googled Inso Kim Berg and Steve de Chazer. And I found out they were teaching in Holland. And can you imagine? Wow. They were teaching in a building next to the school of my kids. Oh. So I took my kids to school in the morning, and I went to see them. And I first met with Steve de Chazer. And it was actually quite funny because I was there early. And there was a man sitting at the table over his coffee, very much in his own world. And I thought he was a tramp.
I shouldn't laugh.
Just hanging over his coffee.
Stop laughing.
I can't, sorry.
And then the organizer of the course, Dr. Luc Isebaar from Belgium, he introduced me to this man, and he said, may I introduce you to Steve de Chazer? And there he was. And I tried to have a chat with him, but it was not very easy because he was not very communicative. So I said, Mr. how long did it take you from Milwaukee to Amsterdam? And he said, I don't know. So that was just one of those conversation stoppers. It was not very easy to communicate with him. And then he started teaching. He was just there in front of this group with hands in his pockets and no fancy PowerPoint at all. He was just talking and just in front of a group of about 50 people, 50 colleagues from Holland. And some of them were bored and they left. And I thought, this man is a genius. This is genius stuff, what he's talking about. So I went to see him in the coffee break. I said, Mr. de Chazer, this is genius. He said, no, because we made a lot of mistakes also. That was the end of that conversation. But I became very much inspired by the solution-focused brief therapy, very much.
So is that when you started trying it out, or how did your journey into it happen so that you started giving it a go yourself?
I called a colleague called Walter Oppernoord. He's a child psychiatrist, and I was so inspired that we constructed this inventory for parents. And instead of asking all those problem-oriented questions like in other inventories, we turned it solution-focused. So that was the beginning. So we made this inventory for parents, and it still exists. And I started to talk with my clients in a solution-focused way. So instead of digging into the problems, digging into their problems that they presented, I started to ask solution-focused questions, resource-activating questions. And there was really a big change. It was a big change in my work. Because in my past life, I was trained to be a psychoanalytical therapist. So there was a big change.
Mm. And how did you? It sounds like you went to this training and you kind of ran with it. How did you marry that sort of training that you had, where you had, you know, the psychopathology of people with the solution focus? It seems polar opposites.
It is. As you know, it's 180 degrees different.
Mm.
So yes, it changed my professional life. And I found out that it's not that difficult, you know, when you rely on the resources of your clients.
Mm.
When you have a different view, you know, about your own role and about the whole process and about your clients. When you see that they have resources and they have great ideas, and when you try to evoke these great ideas, then it's 180 degrees different than a problem-oriented approach that I used in my past life.
Mm.
So when you sort of started this relationship with solution-focused brief therapy, when you met Steve and Insu and then started trying it out, when did you start being serious about it? So say you don't want to marry the other one, but you want to stay true to SF, because that's what you're doing now still. You're true to SF, you're using it in your line of work only. When did you first start noticing that it was serious?
I invited Insu to come to the Netherlands. And then all of a sudden, and she was very approachable, and all of a sudden she was there with me in my car. And I started to talk with her, and somehow, I don't know why, but somehow she liked me. And we started to set up trainings in the Netherlands. And at one point, this school in Soest, Netherlands, they called me while Insu was in Holland. And they asked me for help because there was just a classroom with 11 years old pupils, and they had some trouble in the classroom. And I asked Insu to come with me to the school. And she said, yes, why not? So we went into the school, and it was all recorded. So we made a video of it. And it was lucky that we did, because a few months later, Insu suddenly died. So this was the last video that was made of her. And she was so in good shape, you know, talking with the school children, talking with the teachers. So this video became quite famous, and still people want to see it from all over the world. So that's the point where, you know, it all became very serious.
And that's I've seen that. It's still available on YouTube, isn't it? That particular video.
Yeah.
Mm.
Wow.
So then you went on to do training. Is that right? You then went on to do training after that meeting?
Yes, I started to deliver training in Holland.
Mm-hmm.
And so many people were interested to learn about this solutions-focused approach. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And do you think, you know, watching the developments and rise and, I don't know, decline, or however SF has been moving through all this time that you were in it, what have you observed, like, across the world or in your country that has that you say, okay, yeah, this is how it went, and this was maybe my contribution to it, and this is where I see it going in the future. What's your experience with the SF journey?
In my country, the Netherlands, people, trainees very often ask this question: why is it not bigger? Why is it not? Why doesn't everyone use it? So and I'm amazed myself, because at the end of every training day, at the end of every day, people are so enthusiastic. I was delivering a training in the north of Holland, and the owner of the place, he came up to me. He said, "What is it you are doing?" Because usually people are tired at the end of the day, and they walk out of here quite tired. But not this group. So what is it you are doing? And that was a big compliment for the solution focus approach. So every training day, people get so energized by this approach and get so enthusiastic. And many times they ask, why is it not bigger? Why doesn't everyone use it? And I'm amazed myself. So in my country, it's the solution focused approach is used quite a lot amongst mental health professionals, psychologists, psychiatrists, but also a lot in schools. Like the school counselors, but also teachers are very interested in this solution-focused communication.
And what do you think? Sorry, Joe, go on.
No, I was just fascinated to see what answer do you give them, Arnold, when they say, why isn't this more widespread? What's going on? What answer do you give?
The problem focused approach has a big attraction. So when you see a client, and when a client presents their problems, you are very much drawn into the digging into the problems, analyzing the problems. That's what everyone does. And when a mental health professional is trained, university, they are trained to use the DSM, the big book with a lot of pathology. I call it the dark side of man, DSM. So everyone is focused on understanding the problem. Everyone is focused on diagnosis, all the professionals. So it has a big attraction to work problem-oriented. So
why do you think that is?
That's
interesting.
For example, I was painting a big wall. Big wall. It was heavy work. I was painting it. And then my wife came in and she said, hey, you have forgotten a little bit there. So she pointed to something I had forgotten. And that's what we do when we work with a client. We point to a little problem or a big problem that's there. So now, and we are joking about it, because now she says, you have forgotten to paint around this little hole. Or you painted very well around this little bit. But that's how our mind works. We are very much focused on problems. That's what our mind does. So that's my explanation why the solution-focused approach is maybe not so big as we would like it to be. What do you think?
Is there a sense that people think it's just too simple, it can't work?
Yeah. I think it's too simple. It's too easy, You have to know about the roots of the problem. You have to diagnose the client. Otherwise, you cannot help them. I think that's right. It's the solution-focused approach seems too easy sometimes.
And how come? I mean, you as solution-focused therapists haven't given up on a solution-focused approach. What kind, even though it's so simple, what got you hooked into it? So to commit the relationship, to make it lifelong?
Well, I think, and you know that very well, Biba, once you have tasted this approach and then you have tasted it, it will never leave you. It will never leave you.
Come on, say some more. This is interesting.
So for me, it's when I watch TV programs, like Dr. Phil. Do you know Dr. Phil?
Yeah.
It's very much problem focused, and he's very much the expert. When you listen to Dr. Phil, then your life will be fine again. I cannot see it. I always think, why doesn't he ask about the exceptions to a problem? Why doesn't he ask about resources, strengths, coping? So it's impossible for me not to use it anymore. What about you?
I mean, when we've spoken to many practitioners over the world, and pretty much most of them say the same thing. Once you start on that solution-focused road, you don't really want to go back where it was before. And it's more beneficial. There's hope. Hope is built into the conversation. Clients, we've noticed with the families that we work with, that they leave here more hopeful, which is great, rather than leaving here with a list of problems and not being able to see a way out.
Yes, that's true. So your experience that you can do so much, in cooperation with your client in a brief amount of time, in a short amount of time, is really amazing. So that's another evidence that this approach works. Yeah. And also the energy change when you work with clients, when you talk with a family. And once you know that asking these resource activating questions makes such a difference, for the energy in your therapy room. Once you have tasted that, it will never leave you.
Yeah.
So every session now is like an adventure. And in my past life, when I thought that I had to be the expert, and when I thought that the client was only presenting their problems and that I had to solve them somehow, from my expert position, that was a big job.
Yeah.
Now, when I meet a client for the first time or the second time or third time, every talk is like an adventure. So you just have your toolbox with solution-focused tools, and then you just have to see what happens, how the client responds to all those solution-focused questions. So it's like an adventure. And the energy shift, compared with working problem-oriented, is immense. So I could never go back to working problem-focused.
Yeah. I mean, you traveled across the world when you delivered your trainings, and at some point you even developed your own sort of version that is kind of like your trademark. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? What is it? How did you develop it? How are you using it?
Oh, I used this simple circle technique. Is that what you mean? Circle technique?
Yeah.
And I use it with families, because I'm a family therapist. I use it with families. So I just drew two concentric circles, And I started to interview the family about strengths and successes for the inner circle. Because, you know, when you work with family, then family comes in and the parents are very worried about their children. So they start talking about all the problems. So they give you a long list of problems about their child, and the child is there hearing all this and starts to look a bit pale because, you know, it's all about problems. So I thought, how can I introduce these solution-focused questions and also visualize the answers? So that's why I came up with this circle technique. To inventory strengths, successes. So I ask, what are you proud of? Tell me about some successes you had recently. What are you good at? Tell me about your skills. And parents and child, they cooperate. They all answer these questions. Then I go to the outer circle. And the outer circle is about goals. You know, things they would like to change in the family, in the relationship with their child, at school. So it's like an inventory of both strengths and goals for the outer circle. And that worked well. So this tool has become quite popular.
And it must make a difference for them to see it on paper, because often when we verbalize something, it's just more solid when it's on a piece of paper and you can see it.
Exactly. It makes a big difference when you write it, you know, down, and when the client can visualize it. So they can build on what is there written already. They can build on it during the session. And it works with children. It works with clients who have a mental, intellectual problem. To visualize it, it works very well.
Do the families get to take the paper home, Arnold?
They make pictures with their iPhone.
Oh, excellent.
What happens? They want to take a picture. And some people ask, can we take it home?
Yeah, and having that constant reminder in between sessions that this is what we're aiming for and what we spoke about.
Absolutely.
Brilliant.
So I was working with this young kid who was 9 years old, and he lost both his parents. Both his parents were drug addicts, and they died. So he was staying in this foster family. And I was his therapist. So once I start using the circles, he liked it. And he wrote down in the inner circle all the memories that he had of his parents and where he was very fond of. And every time he came, he was quite excited. He said, I have some more things to tell you. I want to write down some more things in the inner circle. And so that works very well for him. Yeah, it's like a collection. It's like a collection of treasures for the client. So with an individual client or with a family or even with a couple. I do a lot of couples therapy these days because, you know, because of the lockdown, you can't see any groups. So I see a lot of clients, a lot of couples, many couples. And it works with them as well, just to write down, you know, the things they are happy about in their relationship. It sounds simple, like you said. It's a simple approach. So I write down the successes, the things they're happy about in their relationship, in their lives, in their working lives. And I write down the goals in the outer circle. So many times the client will come up with a problem in the sense of, I don't want my husband to do this, or I don't want my wife to do this. And then you simply ask, what do you want instead? So you focus on the presence of, you know all this, you know all this. And you write it down. So again, you have a collection of successes and goals. That's why this quite simple circle technique seems to work.
I don't know if you can see the question from Gil, Arnold, on the screen.
I can see that.
Yeah, so he's asking if you've published it anywhere.
Yeah, I've published in Dutch, so that's not very helpful for you. But I've published on my website some articles about the circle technique. So when you visit my website, Solution Center, you can read. You can read.
Yeah.
Thank you for that question, Gil. And guys, yeah, keep them coming if you've got questions for Arnoud.
What about the 5 principles, Arnold? You wanted to discuss that with us?
Yeah, I'm sorry we can't show them because the share screen does not work.
Would they be on your website, though?
It is. It is.
So people can do that.
So here we go. First principle I've called towards desired changes. This is like an overarching model of the solution-focused approach with 5 principles in it. First principle is called towards desired changes. And a friend of mine has made the illustrations, drawing, and he drew a coachman sitting on a coach. Because the coachman is very interested in where the passenger wants to go. And there's a lot of metaphors like the taxi driver, you know, in London, or when you go and buy a train ticket, and when you go to the ticket office, they ask, and you say, I would like to buy a train ticket. They ask you, where do you want to go? Yeah. So it's like the solution-focused therapist. He's interested in where the client wants to go. And he's not much interested in, you know, the history, particularly the problem history of the client, but he's interested in, you know, the client goals. So questions like, suppose we have a good meeting, what do you hope to get out of it? What needs to happen here today to make you think this meeting was worthwhile? What are your best hopes for this meeting today? These are all goal-directed questions, right? So that's the first principle. To move towards desired changes of the client.
Yeah, it would be strange to get in a coach and the driver to ask you where you've come from. He wants to know where you're going.
Where do you come from? Where have you been yesterday? Where have you traveled last week? Where have you traveled last year?
Unless, you know, their agenda was if they were charged by the time, they could spend like 10 minutes chatting with you where you've come from before they actually took you to where you wanted to go.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So once the coachman knows where the passenger wants to go, they can have a chat. But still they move towards the desired direction of the client, right?
Yeah.
So I have this, last week I saw this 20-year-old client, and he was trained to be a top sportsman, football player actually. He was very talented, but then he got seriously ill and he was taken to hospital about 15 times. So his whole sports career is gone. So he became quite depressed. And now he says, my life is meaningless, and what do I do with my life? So his parents sent him to me. And in the hospital, something happened, because when he was very ill, he started an argument with his mother, and he said something terrible like, "You please drop dead, and I hope you will never get up again," to his mother. So they had a big argument, and he said some terrible things to his mother. So here he is. So how do you approach this young man, in a solution-focused way? And I tried. I asked him, what, suppose we have a good meeting, what do you hope to get out of it? And first he said, I don't know. And then he said, well, maybe I want to have some peace of mind, because my mind is so busy and I have all these negative thoughts. And so maybe I want to have some peace of mind. And then I went on, you suppose you have more peace of mind. What will change for you? What will be the difference? What things would you do differently? And he said, well, maybe make up with my mother, maybe have a nice relationship with her again, and maybe relate to my friends, and maybe start some school. So from there we went on. So we moved into the direction of the desired changes of this young man. So now this week, actually, he will bring his mother to the session. So we will have a talk, 3 of us. And I will ask the same kind of questions. Suppose, we have a good meeting. How would you know this? What do you hope to get out of it? And usually these questions, they work. And so this is the first principle. This is what I call the first principle towards desired changes.
Brilliant. And principle number 2.
Second principle I've called activating clients' useful ideas. Activating clients' useful ideas. So this is about co-constructing. So the therapist doesn't need to be the expert, like client presents problems and the clients presents solutions. No, it's all about interaction. It's constructing solutions based on the client's resources. So the therapist asks these solution-focused questions and builds on the ideas, on the answers of the client. That's the second principle. Activating. First I called it co-constructing, but now I call it, when I teach, it's more clear, I think, for the trainee. I call it activating clients' useful ideas.
And what are some of the questions that you would ask in order to activate some of clients' ideas?
All kinds of solution-focused questions, like exceptions, positive exceptions, like scaling questions. All the solution-focused questions, they activate the client if it works well. So instead of client only sitting there and talking about their problems, you start activating the clients. And this is quite unusual therapy, to activate clients' creative thinking. Because usually in therapy, client presents problems and therapist analyzes. But here something very different happens. So in order to be able to think creatively, the client must feel at ease. Because when there's strong emotions like anger or pain, when the limbic system is overactive, the limbic system in the brain, when the limbic system is overactive, creative thinking is not possible. So first you need to acknowledge a lot and recognize a lot, and then later the client will be able to think creatively. Because all these questions are not so easy. All these solution-focused questions that we ask, they're not so easy. So creative thinking is required.
So that's acknowledging whatever the pain is, the anger, and then getting them to a point where they can use a different part of the brain to creatively think.
Exactly. And I think acknowledgement is a little bit underestimated solution focused therapy. It's very important, to show your understanding of the problem, to show your understanding of strong emotions, will make it safe for the client, will make the environment in therapy, will make it safe. Once the client feels understood, they feel safe, and it's much easier to access their creative thinking. So I think giving acknowledgement is a little bit underestimated, because it seems problem-oriented, but in a way it's not. It's just acknowledging the problems, acknowledging the strong emotions, and it doesn't need to take long. It doesn't need to take half an hour, but it will change something in your session.
Yeah.
So you'd say, yeah. Are you saying, Arnoud, that in a sense creating this safety by giving the impression that you understand your clients' problems without really understanding what their problems were?
Well, yes, understanding their emotions. For instance, when there's infidelity in a relationship, one of the partners might feel a lot of pain, right?
Yeah.
So you want to acknowledge that pain before you move on. With what kind of goals do you have in your session? And again, it doesn't need to take long. It doesn't need to take half an hour. It can be a few minutes. But I think to show your understanding makes it safe for your client.
So showing that understanding before you're asking what would you like to feel instead, because it seems if you just went into an instead question, you're not really acknowledging the pain.
Exactly, because then you move too fast. And your client will let you know. They will say, "Wait a minute, did you hear me?"
Yeah.
I've been terrible pain, my husband or my wife had an affair, and and that's. Did you hear me? So they will let you know. They will let you know if you didn't give enough acknowledgement.
And it's respectful, I guess. It's very respectful.
It is.
It
is. So you cannot move too fast. Sometimes. Janet Bevelis calls this the grounding. Have you heard about the grounding principle?
Oh.
You show evidence of understanding, and then a platform of mutual understanding will be there. And from there, you move on. You can move to your solution-focused questions. Grounding, the grounding principle.
That was sense.
Yeah. So that was principle number 2, and right. Number 3.
Number 3. The third principle is working from. Can I just? It's called working from a strength-based perspective. So instead of working with your Dark Side of Man book in your hand, you don't focus on all the deficits, and you do not focus on the symptoms, but you focus on the client's strengths. It's like when you show a movie of a family, you can ask one half of your audience to take notice of all the problems in the family, of the deficits, of the dysfunctional parts. And the other half of your audience, you can ask to find the strengths of the family. And they will come up with, it's lovely. They will come up with different answers. So when we work from a solution-focused stance, we are much more focused on client strengths.
So are you saying that this is like a choice that the practitioner makes in their work?
Absolutely. It's a choice. It's a choice. You have, when you work SF, you have different glasses on. You see different things and you focus on different things. That's the paradigm shift, right? So that makes a big difference.
And the strengths were already, would they already be known to the client because they're in the circle and you're just repeating back the strengths that you've identified or they've identified in themselves?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. I think when you focus on things that work well, when you focus on exceptions, positive exceptions, then the client will change their way of thinking about themselves, about their family, about their relationship. It's like constructing, with language, you construct a different reality. So the client will see things in a different way. So you're right, Biba. It's a choice, and you can say that the therapist determines the direction of the conversation and determines the content of the conversation by asking different questions. So it's a misunderstanding. Many people say, oh, you just follow the client, right? When you work solution focused, you just follow the client. No, because your questions, they determine the direction of your session.
And do you often get clients who would put exceptions, but not down to anything they've done? It was just, I don't know, a bit of luck or...
Of course. What do you do then, Joe?
Yeah. That's what I'm asking you, Arnold.
I would try to focus on very, very small details. Yeah, very small details.
Yeah, and I suppose even if they don't see it as part of themselves, they may still have had a choice in that situation. So maybe the choice that they made it more positive in some sense.
Yeah, yes, exactly. So I usually focus on very small details. And if the small details of exceptions do not work, you go to nano details.
Wow, okay.
So the very
And how do you know, when you teach, say, somebody new to solution-focused brief therapy, and they tell you, which is quite common question, when they say, but what when there are no strengths and no resources in the family?
You don't believe your clients. I don't believe. You don't.
How do you respond, to the participants in your trainings? So other counselors, other psychologists who would like to learn solution-focused brief therapy, but they are not yet used to the way of our thinking, of our paradigm. How do you respond to them saying,
like, it seems that the client is very disencouraged about their lives, about their family? It seems they are very disencouraged. So you first acknowledge that, and then you look for very small exceptions. But you don't want to prove to your client that these exceptions are there, because then you're opposite. You're opposite. But first acknowledge, and then look for very small exceptions. That's what I usually do. How do you do it, Biba?
No, this is about you now. Nice try.
And I think it's really about it's that one of the principles or one of the things that you read often about problems are not always 24/7. That there's a period, no matter how small,
Yeah.
that it needs to be a little bit less.
Yes.
And I guess it's looking, like you say, looking for those tiny little times when it is a little bit better.
For instance, when your client says, "I'm always very depressed," you ask for exceptions, and they say, "No, no exceptions. I'm always depressed." Then you might ask, "When is your depression most present?" And they might say, "On Monday morning, because everyone goes to work, and then my depression is strong." So now you have introduced relativity, because on Monday morning your depression is strong, but on Monday afternoon there might be a little difference, right? So you can ask, what's the difference between the Monday morning and the Monday afternoon? So now you introduce the Putting Difference to Work, this famous book by Steve DeShazer, Putting Difference to Work. So that's kind of a clever way to introduce difference. What's the difference between Monday morning and Monday afternoon?
Yeah.
But you don't want to prove to your client that these exceptions are there. So it's always leading from behind, the famous leading from behind. So you're leading conversations from one step behind.
Does
it make sense?
It makes perfect sense. Really clever. Because you're asking when it's at its worst, and
Yes.
and the times when it's just like you said, just a little bit better. So it's almost you're not solution forced.
Yeah, you're not solution forced. You're solution focused. Yes.
Oh, wicked. Okay. Well, is it principle 4, Biba? I've lost count.
4 principles. Very good, Joe. The 4th principle is about the language. It's about the use of constructive language. And my view is that this is an important principle of the solution-focused therapist. There's a beautiful quote by a Persian poet. The quote says, "The words that you use become the house you live in." The words that you use become the house you live in. So when you use, as a therapist, a lot of problem language, pathology language, that will be the house you live in, with your client. And so solution-focused therapy is very sensitive to the use of constructive language. So it makes a difference to say to your client, "You have a generalized anxiety disorder," or you say, "You seem to be very worried, very concerned a lot of the time." So it's like, now we're talking about describing a problem, right? So when you say you have a generalized anxiety disorder, it's very much the fixed mindset. It's like a label you carry with you the rest of your life. Sounds like it. But when you describe in a more dynamic way or in a contextual way the problem, it seems at this phase of your life, you're very, very concerned, very worried, very anxious. It's like a different description, right? Well, you're talking about describing a problem. And our colleague Therese Steiner from Switzerland, she's a child psychiatrist. She once said to parents, the parents said, "Our boy is very anxious. He's very fearful all of the time." And then she said, "Your boy has a very good sense for danger." So that's a wonderful reframe, because to have a good sense for danger, he could be proud of. And that's an example of constructive language, right? So that's the 4th principle. You like to use constructive language. I had a client.
Sorry, go on.
I had a client, 16-year-old boy, who came with his mother. The mother said, I'm very concerned about my boy. Here he is. He has stolen money from me. And I'm absolutely 100% sure that he did it. So he's a thief. And second, he lies about it because he denies it all the time. And I'm sure he did it, but he denies it. So this is very painful twice. He steals money from me and he lies, right? And I can imagine, a parent saying this because you don't want your children to steal from you. It's very shameful. And so I could understand that she described the problem in her way, And then I turned to the boy as a therapist. I turned to the boy and I said, it seems that you have taken some money from your mother without asking her. And then he said, yes, I did. And now the mother said, this is a miracle because he admitted for the first time. It's a miracle.
Yeah.
So the only thing I did is, put it a little bit milder. I used constructive language. I said to the boy, you have taken money without permission. And he said yes. And from there we went on. We could build, So I suggested to him, should we make a plan? First of all, to make it up with your mother because she's in pain because of this, what happened. Secondly, shall we make a plan how to deal with money so you have enough money so you don't have to take it without permission anymore? So it's just an example how in therapy, how when you word it in a different way, when you use constructive language, it can make a big change, make a big difference.
Like Steve has said, right? Words were originally magic. They aren't magic.
Yeah, because you've taken the word stealing and thief out of the conversation.
Yeah.
So there's probably less need for him to defend himself.
That's right, exactly. Because you take like the judgment, the strong judgment you take out. And accusation you take out. So I think you're right. So he doesn't need to defend himself. He can be more open and he can admit. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Which brings us to the last principle.
Last principle. Fifth principle. Solutions in a social construct. Because, as you know, solution-focused therapy is rooted in systemic thinking. It's like the client is not seen as a separate entity, but part of a social environment, ecosystem. Hence, both problems and solutions are seen in a context of social relationships and culture. So that's why we like to ask relationship questions, interactional questions. So we're much more focused on what's happening between people, in between people, and not so much focused on what's happening inside of, an individual. For instance, suppose you will become more self-assured in the next few weeks. How will someone who knows you well, how will your best friend notice? It's called a relationship question. So you construct a solution within the relationship with significant others. So that's the fifth principle, to place solutions in a social construct.
And I guess when there's a group, sorry, go on. Who's that?
No, you go on.
Go on. No, I was just going to say when you're working with a family, that's even more real because the other members are there and what they might notice when something's different.
Absolutely. And the solution-focused approach is rooted it has origins in the family therapy, and you can really notice. Yeah. So it's like it's like a good match, working solution-focused with a family or with a couple. It comes naturally.
Yeah.
It's my experience. Is that your experience too?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's great when you can have a description of the preferred future and everyone's involved and asking them what they would notice and who would be the first to notice. And it's nice to have people there rather than the person having to guess what might be said or what might be noticed.
Absolutely.
It makes it more real. Yeah.
And working with couples or family, it's not so easy because when you are unlucky or you're not so lucky, they will come up with conflicting goals.
Yeah.
Especially with teenagers. Teenagers want different things than their parents. And I will never forget Inso Kim Berg, who said to parents once, but don't you know it's teenagers, it's their job to make life difficult for you. Of course they want different things from you, but still you want a good relationship with them, right? It's their job to make life difficult for you. Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah. Or as Aisha would say, that you have to imagine teenagers are like aliens. We have to find a way of communicating. Yeah, that's one of my favorites.
It's in the same line. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
So working with a family or working with a couple is not so easy because you might have different and conflicting goals. So you have to know, as a therapist, how to deal with that. And
I was wondering, sorry.
And to be multiple engaged. So you have to engage with the teenager, and you have to engage with the parents. You have to be multiple engaged. So you can be engaged with the parents for a few minutes, and then you go back to engaging with the teenager. You have to be multiple engaged. You have to build a good working relationship with all the family members, with the different family members, and with the family as a whole.
Yeah. I was wondering, maybe as a last question, when you said that relationship questions and contextual questions might be a good match with solution-focused brief therapy. At the beginning, you said that you nearly married a different approach, but then you got hooked into solution-focused and you marry that one. Now that we see so many approaches coming, which approaches do you think might be a good match with solution-focused, if any, or which ones cannot go together at all?
Well, personally, I sometimes use the neuroscience. I talk with my clients about the function of the brain. So I use neuroscience. Not too long, 5 to 10 minutes. It seems like the limbic system is overactive and you have all these triggers here, and this is a trigger and this is a trigger, combined with solution-focused approach. So how can you deal with another trigger coming up to prevent the limbic system to be overactive? So I combine neuroscience, neuropsychology with solution-focused approach. And another combination is EMDR. Have you heard of EMDR? Trauma therapy. So I sometimes have sessions, EMDR sessions, combined with the solution-focused approach. Well, solution-focused approach, my main approach, and then I sometimes use EMDR when a trauma on coming up all the time. And the flashbacks all the time.
So you still, how does someone contact you if you're doing any training on, or any literature that you've got out, or books?
I haven't published any book yet.
Oh.
Maybe this year, because I have lots of time now, during this Corona. So they can contact me through my website.
Are you doing training? Are you able to do training over Zoom, Arnoud, over remotely?
No. I prefer live training.
I
prefer live training. I started to do some therapy over Zoom, and then the client came to my office, and there was such a big difference. So I'm a little bit fed up with the talking heads.
Yeah, we're getting Zoom fatigue, aren't we? All of us. Offline is the new luxury, I'm telling you guys.
Live training recently in Holland, and everyone, came in and was excited to be there again and have a coffee and have a chat. And so I prefer live training.
Yeah, you do miss that connection with people.
Absolutely.
I mean, we still do. We do meetings on Zoom, which I guess is better than no meetings at all. But
That's right. Absolutely.
Okay, so.
Sorry. Hi. Sorry. Hi. No, I'm only coming on screen because there's a couple of really, really good questions, but for some reason it's not popping up on my screen over here. So, Matt is asking, what about reattach? Could that be combined with SF, reattachment?
I don't know so much about that. I don't know so much about it. I can't really.
Well, there's the end of that one. Okay. Now, Gil is asking, other than involvement of the limbic system, how else does SFT work from a neurological perspective?
When there's strong emotions, limbic system is overactive. Amygdala hijacking might happen, and the whole limbic system blocks the prefrontal cortex. So it's like creative thinking is not possible. So when you move away from the strong emotions by giving a lot of acknowledgement and ask about successes and ask about positive exceptions, then you get a different conversation. And then there's a shift. There's a shift also, in the neurological system. So the prefrontal cortex becomes active again. Creative thinking is much more possible. Concentration increases. Attention span increases. So the solution-focused questions that are focused on exceptions, successes, things that work for the client, they enhance the functioning of the prefrontal cortex. And also stuff like dopamine and endorphins are increased when you talk about a success. That's why it makes a big difference to have these solution-focused conversation. You have a very different energy, because when you focus on what works for the client, they will start feeling much more happy.
Yeah. And I think soon we've got a chat coming up that will cover that more, won't it? With
Rachel Gillibrand.
Yeah. So that'll be interesting. Coffee.
So,
Is there any more
sorry,
questions?
our time's actually up. Any last words before I start to close?
I just want to say thank you very much. It's been really, really interesting, especially I think where we acknowledge those emotions, because often I think I've even found myself just trying to skip past it because I find it uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And slowing down a bit and giving the client that chance to use part of their brain where they can forward think and plan makes a lot of sense. So
Yeah. I know what you mean, Joe, because you feel uncomfortable, but also it seems
Joe is British.
Because many people think it's when you acknowledge negative emotion, it's problem focused, but it's not. It's helping you. It's helping you to establish, a platform from where you can move to your solution-focused questions. Yes.
Yeah. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much.
That's something I'll definitely remember. Thank you for your time. It's been brilliant. I really appreciate the time that you've given us today.
It was a great pleasure. It was a great pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much.
Get your book done, Arnold. We're waiting.
Come on, Arnold. Please have an English version.
Oh, yes.
And I honestly, Biba, you are such a brilliant co-host. I'm sitting here in envy thinking,
Yeah, we don't need you now.
you don't need me now. But honestly, thank you so much. And Biba's actually in our office today. And we're going to have dinner together. And I had to persuade her a little bit, but we're having dinner together. And, she's an incredible person, someone I completely admire. And Arnold, the first time I actually met you, I was in awe of how much knowledge you have and how fantastic you are. A great mentor and a great teacher. I learned so much from our little time together when we first met. And today, I'm just sitting here thinking, wow, this is amazing. And not just wow from Insu, but actually, wow, this is totally amazing. And I never realized it was you on the tape until you told me last time we spoke.
That tape is a long time ago.
Well, I saw that man and I thought, wow, he's good looking.
Thank you. Thank you.
I can still see it.
Well, the kids in that school in Soest, because I was only translating, Insu's English into Dutch. They called me the translator. So here's our translator.
I love it. Absolutely love it.
Thank you very much. It was great pleasure to talk with you.
And with you.
Indeed.
Right, we're all going to say bye now, but can I just ask that the beautiful co-host, the host and Arnold, just stay behind for a couple of minutes?
Is that me?
So, yeah, that's you. You're not the beautiful one. That's Biba. See you later, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.